two things were very clear to me going in, is that it was going to have to be actors that were not going to concern themselves with what was done before, because it's a slice of life. It's not a biography about any of these men. These are giants, but it's about this night, all of the things that have taken place in all of these men's lives that led them to this moment right here.
Hello, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America. Today's episode takes us behind the scenes of director Regina King's new historical drama, One Night in Miami. The film is a fictional account of the night of February 25th, 1964, when newly crowned heavyweight boxing champion of the world Muhammad Ali gathers with activist Malcolm X, singer Sam Cooke, and athlete and burgeoning actor Jim Brown to discuss their celebrity and responsibility in moving the country towards equality and empowerment for all Black people. One Night in Miami is Ms. King's feature directorial debut. Her other credits include the movie for television Let the Church Say Amen, the documentary Story of a Village, and episodes of the series Insecure, This Is Us, and Scandal. Ms. King spoke with director Barry Jenkins about filming One Night in Miami in front of a virtual audience. Listen on for their spoiler-filled conversation.
Hey, hello, everybody out there in virtual land. My name is Barry Jenkins, and I will be your moderator. I guess not really a moderator, just me and Regina. I will be asking questions in this conversation with Regina King about her feature directorial debut, One Night in Miami. Welcome, Ms. King. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, Mr. Jenkins. It's good to see your face.
Yeah, good to see you too. It's been a while. It's been too long. So I saw the film for the first time at the drive-in in the Rose Bowl when AFI put on the piece, which was cool. It was my first time seeing a movie outside the house during the quarantine. And it was interesting because I had forgotten that I had read this play long time. I hadn't seen it, but I had read it a couple years ago. And part of that was I had heard about this story, not the play, but the story of Ali and Malcolm X and Sam Cooke and Jim Brown hanging out in Miami. And I was like, no, that's bullshit. It's not true. But then when the play came about, it was like 2015, 2016. Somebody was talking to me about it, so I hunted it down and read it. I was like, oh, shit, it did happen. Then I saw your film, and your film departs from the play in a few different places. I want to talk to you about that. But first I wanted to ask, because you're not from Miami, right?
No, but you are.
I am. So how the hell did you beat me to this? How did this come to you, and why did you decide to make it?
Oh, man, a few reasons. It came to me because I was talking to my agent about the time. I was really officially ready to actively pursue a project for my film directorial debut. And so I was sitting down and just kind of sharing with him the stories that I would want to tell. A lot of stories that I want to tell, but the stories that I thought would be good first for me. And I told him one of those things was that I wanted to do a romance within the historical backdrop that with us as the lead, like our Titanic, Mm-hmm. And so not long after that conversation, One Night in Miami came on his radar. And while it's not that type of romance, there is a love story here to me. It was, I read the script and I felt like, wow, Kemp just wrote a love letter to Black men. And in this piece, I felt like I saw every Black man that I know and love, even though it was through the voice of Cassius and Malcolm and Sam and Jim. Kemp Powers, the writer, did an amazing job at, removing the titles and humanizing them and just forcing you as an audience. And at this point, I'm reading it to receive them and appreciate them as men first. And there was just a brotherhood that exists in the piece that I just felt like I don't get the opportunity to see this. I don't get an opportunity to see Black men the way I see them in my life. So that was appealing to me. And, you know, it's an actor's piece. It's truly an actor's piece. The dialogue is the star. And that was exciting to me. And also, I think it was a smart move to play to my strengths. And one of my strengths as a director is that I am an actor and I understand the journey of an actor. And I feel like I have I can communicate in a way that I can shift styles of communication quickly depending on the actor. And I discovered that throughout the time I've been doing episodic work and just kind of educating myself. Like that was my film school in a lot of ways. So yeah, those were the two biggest things that drew me to.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you describe it as a love story, I see that. You know, there's all these different kinds of love. You know, we made Beale Street together, and in the score of Beale Street, Nick and I named all these pieces of score after the different stages of love. And I think you're right, because these conversations that the dudes are having, they keep evolving and evolving and evolving. And you see this brotherly love, you see a sort of kind of paternal love, you know, in certain ways, even though they're all kind of similar in age. It's kind of cool. It's Lulu always talks about, I'm in Lulu's office right now. She made this movie, The Farewell, very small family drama. But she said she thought of it as a monster film. And the monster in the room is, are we going to tell grandma that this disease is trying to kill her? And so when she thought of it that way, it kind of opened things up. And I think thinking of your piece as a love story is kind of cool. It kind of recontextualizes some things for me. I wanted to ask you, it's an adaptation, but it's crazy. I was going through the play again today, and it's a very sparse play, by which I mean it's all about the dialogue. And it even has a little bit of stage directions in it. But seeing your film, you kind of took all that and, you know, kind of tore it apart and kind of put it back together again. And so I think it probably had to go from the page to the stage to the script to the screen. That's a long process. So just tell me about adapting it.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Kemp did done the heavy lifting. You know, very rarely, the thing's so beautiful about, you know, you is that you are a writer and a director, and you know, just from experience, just what that entails, what you have to give of yourself. For me, looking at that blank page and attempting to write is terrifying for me. But I do feel like even with that, I understand story, and I understand that regardless of the genre, if it's a comedy, if it's a rom-com, if it's a thriller, if there's no heart in it, if it's not rooted in heart at the core of it, that's going to be a tough story to tell. And I think that Kemp not often is the author of a book or a play able to do such a great adaptation of their work. Usually another writer will come in and do a polish or something, but he spent a lot of time with it and blew up his own play and opened it up. And I just, by the time, you know, I got the part, I always say, you know, I had to get the job too. I had to let them know the story that I wanted to tell with the story that had been given. I saw very clearly Kemp's intentions. And so it was my job to lean in even harder in those places, especially when you talk about humanizing these men. It was me adding scenes or adding just little moments that make them real, make them, not to keep saying it, but takes the titles away. And I think Kemp trusted me because I truly understood his intention immediately. I read the screenplay and was blown away because I was like, wait a minute, this is his brother's first screenplay? He's never written a screenplay before. You guys are kidding. And then, so I had to order the play, and then I read the play before I met with them because I wanted to see, the difference. And all the themes were there. But I felt like, well, I think we can add a little more from the play back in to this screenplay and still not get caught in, because it was an easy trap to possibly fall into because we spend so much time in that room.
Yeah. It is not a big room. And yet I think you guys do a great job, you, your cinematographer, the actors, figuring out a blocking that can be cinematic, and especially the scene on the rooftop. One of the most arresting moments to me in the piece, just as a director, just craft, is that transition from the room to the rooftop. It's just like there's something, because it's kind of like you're building this thing. The room is so small, they're taking up all the space. And then they're in complete freedom, open space. I thought it was a really cool thing. So just talk to me about making the play and the script cinematic when all these people are talking.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so if you really think about the actual room, if you imagine these huge men, the actual room in the Hampton house was half the size of our set. I knew immediately, like, yeah, that's we can't try to duplicate the exact room. And the production designer definitely, because they want everything to be authentic because this is their name. And I was like, yeah, no, but this is not gonna work. We're gonna spend so much time here. We can let the cameras make the film, make the room claustrophobic when we want it to be. Exactly. And we need the depth for when we want to have the depth, when we want them to feel worlds apart. And the camera can handle some of that, but we can't do that in this tight room. So, the decision was to create this room that it was like three spaces in the room that speak to what's happening in the moment. So if you land in the little hallway area, you're kind of on your own. There's an isolated feeling that wanted to capture when a person was in that space. And when you were in, let's say, the kitchenette area, like the logic that I gave it, I do this as an actor as well, that even if it didn't really exist, if I can make it make sense in my head, that if anybody asks me the question, I can say, well, this is the reason why. In my head, I decided that the Hampton house had knocked down a wall, put two rooms together because this is their special suite. Exactly. For when the Malcolm X's come to town, they stay, in the Hampton suite, So that was the logic that I gave to that. And it allowed us to create blocking or staging that there was this feeling where Malcolm was very isolated at times. And that's what he was feeling in this moment of his life, and wanted that staging to reflect that, to push that even further. And so doing cubby holes and have cutouts where we can put the camera so that we could just have more opportunity to have those fly on the wall moments visually. I think it really helped push that feeling when you want to feel like you're in that man's head. It's hard to say character because these men actually exist, but in that man's head, feeling that vulnerable moment, because each of them have vulnerable moments.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually wanted to ask you about that. The LAPD is somewhere in the neighborhood, so I don't know if you can hear the sirens on your side. Coming to
I
you
can.
live from LA. Grateful. I was gonna say, did you run it as masters? Because some of the performances are so great. I'm like, these cats can't be doing like two lines and stopping. It felt like the script was broken into these chambers, and y'all just ran it. Y'all would run it again and then run it again.
We did run it as masters, and we would run it as masters a few times. And uh, one of the things that I decided early on, well, that I knew early on, is that I wanted the cameras to always be moving, but I didn't want them to be a distraction. So Tammy Riker, my DP, her idea for the best way to achieve this. I knew I wanted to be handheld on the roof, and she felt like the best way for us to achieve this without the steady cam all the time was to always be on the jib arms. So it was a dance, but what it allowed us to do is when we were running it like as a master, and we were still able to be coming through one of the cubby holes on the jib and actually capturing some coverage in not the conventional way, not just straight on. There's something really interesting, and I won't lie, I learned this from working with Barry Jenkins and from.
I was gonna say, because I was gonna say it would have been easier for us to do Bill on a stage, especially y'all's apartment, but we did it in that brownstone. I assume the suite was a stage. It had to be.
Yes.
It had to be. But did you ever think, no, let's go find a little motel in Miami or a little motel down in Long Beach or something?
Yeah, that would have been nice. I truly was a fangirled out at the fact that you did that, and I actually was able to experience that, and that was, singular. I've never experienced anything like that before, but I knew that wasn't going to work here. It just. I would have been shooting myself in the foot. I am the first to own up to the fact that I could not be the captain of the ship, and with the knowledge that I have, trying to do all of that in a practical location. You know.
But it's interesting, though, because I was thinking that the thing I've done closest to what you do in this film is that living room scene when Audrey comes over in Beale Street. And I was thinking about how we did that, because it was one of the most challenging scenes I've ever done. And you do it for like 90 straight minutes. And I remember, I think we shot that over like 2 or 3 nights. And I struggled with where to put the camera that would let y'all have the center of the room. And that living room was sort of similar to one chamber of y'all's space, but it was way more people. It was like, so how do you allow the performers to have the space, but still allow the audience to be inside it? You know what I mean? And it's a really tricky thing to pull off. It's one of the things I hope when people watch this film, they realize this ain't just people standing up and talking. The camera's got to dance as well. And I think a really good director knows how to allow the audience to be able to see the fireworks. There's a lot of pyrotechnics in this thing. To see that in an intimate way, and yet still have the actors, still also feel like they have control of the space as well. It's a really delicate dance. I'm trying to understand this thing with the jibs and the cubby holes, because it's kind of dope. I assumed it was like a little bit of Steadicam, a little bit of handheld. There's a 5th person in there, but I think it's really lovely to do it that way. I mean, it's a very complicated, I would say. It
was very complicated.
I'm interviewing you, but I'm trying to picture this shit in my head right now.
I know. Very little Steadicam, actually, when we were in the room. There is one scene that the entire scene, because you're trying to, okay, well, what can I do different in this scene, because we're in this room for so long, but not feel like the audience is like, oh, she's trying to do this to show her big camera moment. that's distracting to me, just as a audience member. Sometimes when it's done right, it's amazing. When it's done to help tell the story and to help the audience feel a certain type of energy, it's amazing. But when it's done just for camera theatrics, I don't think it services the piece, especially a piece like this.
Yeah, it's something I wanted to shout you out about because it's easy to get into your head to be like, we're in the same space with the same people for however many minutes. I gotta mix it up. But then you start mixing it up for mixing it up's sake. I did want to ask you one of the most visual. I want to ask you about directing actors in a second, but I'm on this visual with you right now. One of the most visual moments is the transition to the roof. The camera, I think it kind of like pushes through the door. It's like it's with them and then it goes past them and out through the door. But I'm pretty sure that was a set, right? Or were y'all actually on a practical roof for that bit?
Yeah, well, we're not. It was that roof was basically, we built that roof on the top of storage containers because we learned that being up on the roof, it was going to be all of these other, legal things that we were going to have to be dealing with. And they have to kind of run and have that banter, that moment on the roof. And it just felt like, gosh, if we really go for the roof, and finding that location, we're gonna bone ourselves, and our actors aren't gonna be able to move, because it was like we found out we would have to put them on harnesses, and then we'd have to paint the harnesses out after, because so we made the decision to build that roof outside of our stages, and the scene that leads us to the roof, that's the scene where it was kind of my one shot on the steady, and then I enter the roof on the steady.
Is a stitch or something, right?
Yeah. Okay. It's kind of coming behind Jim's back, and then
it's so dope. I imagine I'm assuming what the budget of this movie was. Don't say it, but it's an expensive sequence, in a movie that for a lot of stretches is just folks standing on moving around the set. And so as a director now, how do you make that choice where, what, this is worth it? We gonna find the containers, we gonna do the water, and then we gonna come on through.
Right. Well, I think the most expensive part of the sequence was the blue screen for Miami, because we were not high, we were in New Orleans. I don't know, there several episodes that I've directed, I've kind of done the white before, so I don't know if I'm kind of making it a bit of a signature type thing, and I just felt like somewhere in this film that has to happen.
So Spike got his dolly and Regina King got her stitch. But you know what though, it makes sense that it is a directorial signature, because it's hella visual. But for me, especially in this film, I haven't seen all the episodic work you've done. So I made a point of saying your first feature film, not your directorial debut. But what I did get something emotional and thematic from it, because it's so claustrophobic. And then in this continuous moment, we go from the claustrophobic to, and you think, oh, they can breathe now. But they sew up in here, they won't let each other breathe.
Yeah, and that was means the world to me that you caught that. That was the intention.
Hey, I make movies because I love movies, and when I'm watching movies, I'm trying to see, what is this person trying to say to me? In this case, the person is Regina King. So hey, I did want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about casting the actors, but the time is getting tight, so I want to jump right to my big question real quick, which is, Kingsley is awesome in the film. He's just like, it's like career defining work for him. And it's interesting because when I was watching the movie, I kept having Denzel in my head. Denzel is Malcolm X, especially for the age I was and the amount I knew of Malcolm X. A lot of what I knew of Malcolm X came from watching Spike's movie. But then you learn more about who Malcolm was. And, all human beings have a spectrum of who they are. And I think y'all brought a whole different spectrum to who this man is. Just talk to me about building that character. I don't know if you knew or didn't know, but knowing that, for me, as I watched it, I had Denzel in my head. And it was so lovely to be like, oh, but then here's this other thing, not better or worse, good or bad, but
just different.
Exactly.
Just different. And well, first of all, with Kingsley and with Eli, they both had, two performances that were Oscar-nominated performances happen, years ago, and now here they come, wanting to embody these men. And two things were very clear to me going in, is that it was going to have to be actors that were not going to concern themselves with what was done before, but that I know that I am the correct vessel to express who Malcolm is in this moment, because it's a slice of life. It's not a biography about any of these men. These are giants, but it's about this night, all of the things that have taken place in all of these men's lives that led them to this moment right here. And as long as the actor remembered that, they didn't have to worry about what another actor has done before, because this is a singular moment. And one of the things that, speaking specifically about Malcolm, I think so often when we see sound bites of Malcolm, we always see as Jim says in the film, the fire and brimstone moments. And when you speak to any of the people that really knew Malcolm, they talk about him being a person that laughed a lot, that told silly jokes. And I want to know who that man is, and what's interesting when you just think about the sacrifices that Malcolm made in his life for us, for a people. Of course he had to be a loving man. Of course he had to be vulnerable. Of course he had to be heart cracked open to understand what it was when he went and made his journey to Mecca and came back and had a different perspective, if you will, on brotherhood. Still very much so a Black man, and understanding the marginalization of Black people, but the understanding how that marginalization went way beyond America. It went, like he came back the same person, but his heart even, I think, opened even more. And in order to receive that, I feel like he already had to have that within him. And one of the things that I believe about all of those men, and about men that we say are so strong in general, that a lot of that strength is found through vulnerability. And that is the thing that was important to me to see, that to see Malcolm smile, to see him like Kingsley, he lost 20 pounds for the role. He truly, captured the dialect. He lived and slept and breathed Malcolm in his preparation. And, there's these moments where he laughs with his body, not just with his face, with his body. And we know that laugh. A human being, if you have truly are laughing with joy from a space, we know what that feels like. We should be able to see that Malcolm X knew what that felt like, and appreciate the man that much more. So that's the Malcolm that we wanted to capture. And like you said, it was different. It's not a better or a worse. It's just a different part of Malcolm we're seeing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what you said is correct. It's not the whole man, it's who he was in this moment or who he could have been
Yeah.
moment. Random question. Is Kingsley actually taking pictures? Is it an actual camera or an actual film?
We do have some pictures. Yeah.
I want to see some of those because I think watching the film, it made me curious. I was like, where's the Malcolm X like photo table book? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want to see.
That's the thing that like was my, big, and my guess is that perhaps a lot of those photographs that Malcolm had taken over the years were destroyed in that fire. Because there was two fires. There was that fire, and then later on with Dr. Shabazz, and I feel like I was like, wow, where are those images? Because he was definitely a fan of capturing the moments, but we've never seen those images.
Yeah, I've seen the one of him taking the photo of,
but never the photo. And that was one of the reasons why on the roof I was like, when I read that scene, I went, we've got to see the fight through Malcolm's lens before we get to this roof, because we, as an audience, as lovers of people who appreciate and have been moved so much by Malcolm's words throughout our life. Like most of us were introduced to Malcolm X somewhere in our teens. That's when we would read the autobiography. Like that's I kind of feel like that's kind of, so for Black people, I think somewhere around your teens, that's when you were introduced to that book. And it's still, most people I know, one of the greatest books that they've ever read, And I just felt like we always see the photo of him taking pictures. We don't see the photo, the image through his eyes. And that was just, so we do have some of those images.
Yeah, it's cool because you get to see just a little bit. And I like how you describe it as a slice of life, not the whole man, not any of these whole men, but you get to see his curiosity about the world, which is ultimately why he went to Mecca. All right, you mentioned Eli. We talked about Kingsley. Aldous is great, and then Leslie is just like, I don't think there's ever been a Sam Cooke biopic, and so I think seeing him in this is, one of the first times any of us are getting to see a personification of what he may have been like. And man, Leslie goes to a place that this ain't Hamilton, you know what I'm saying? It ain't. And so, casting him, building that character the same way working with Kingsley, building, this other depiction of Malcolm.
Yeah, it's interesting with Leslie. It's so funny. And I wonder if you've ever experienced this as well. When you're promoting the film after it's done, you discover these things about your actors or things that they felt that you're like, oh my God, I didn't even know you felt that. But, he said he didn't think of himself that he could do it. And I did not. I felt in our conversations that he was nervous about potentially playing Sam, but I never felt like he didn't think he had it in him, and I'm so glad that I saw something in him that he didn't see in himself. But he definitely, Sam Cooke made such an impression in his life, of course, just being a singer, but he just, I guess, felt like these are just, I can't mess this up. And there's a chance that I might, so I may not be the right person for it. But there was something about, I'd never seen Leslie in Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
I was introduced to Leslie through his Christmas album. And I was like, who is this man? This voice is amazing. So this is like years ago. And it's really weird because I am in my mind thinking of, at this point, I've got the job, thinking of actors that, you know, would be good in these roles. And Leslie's freaking Nationwide commercial came on. And it was something about his poise in that commercial that I said, something's interesting there. So then I get on and do the dive, and I see a couple things that he had done, and I'd watch them, but they didn't necessarily say Sam Cooke to me, and they didn't necessarily, they weren't necessarily roles that truly showcase Leslie in any way. And so I talked to him on the phone. I was able to get an advance screening of Harriet and saw a little something there. And I was like, I just want to talk to the brother. And I talked to him, and his respect and love for Sam and how Sam was so precious to him made me feel like this brother's gonna give it all and leave it on the floor. He's gonna go. He's gonna take no prisoners or take all prisoners, whichever what way you want to look at it. And when I said, but I need to hear you read the words, brother. I need to hear them out of your mouth. This is not everyone is reading. It's you know. And he said absolutely, and he came in and read, and I was like, that's Sam.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. It's the piece is even. It's pretty even-handed. You know, I don't. You know, there's sometimes where I think, oh, it was definitely Malcolm's film, and there's sometimes where I'm like, well, I think it might have been Ali's film. You know, and then there's sometimes where I think, you know, I'm pretty sure it was Sam's film, and I think there's something really lovely about the way you balance that. What I will say is, you know, I'm kind of trying to unpack what we're talking about. You know, you kind of said it, which is this is not a film about any of these men and their titles. It's about who they were in this moment. And so I think you and Leslie, as opposed to, you said, I don't know if this dude is Sam Cooke, but we don't know who Sam Cooke was. You know what I mean? And I think by drilling in and focusing on just this one piece, this is who Sam may have been this night. Let's go get it. You know, who Malcolm may have been this night. Let's go get it. Same thing for Jim. Same thing for Ali. And I think because of that, something really honest comes out of it. You know.
Yeah. And also it was very specific moments in this piece that I felt like each of them, it was their moment where the vulnerability was really coming through for each of them, you know, and they each got it as an actor, you know, like for Jim, it was a very sensitive thing about the consideration of making this crossover to film, you know, like we always look at Jim as, you know, Jim don't take no Jim Brown, you know, Jim Brown ain't no punk, but you know, there's this moment and he's kind of excited as he's sharing with Cassius about the film, but then when Cassius kind of laughs, you know, Jim is a little like, no, I wasn't expecting that from you, and the way, you know, we approached that was that maybe going into the moment, Jim wasn't feeling like don't tell anybody, but Cassius' reaction there made him go, wait a minute, don't say shit about the film, you know, the filmmaking, you know, just don't say a damn thing. It's my shit. I shared it with you. Don't say it. And it's in Jim's way, but it is a little moment of vulnerability, you know.
Regina, your mic or something just got a little funny. I can hear you, but you kind of like a little chipmunkish. It's like it's like it's only the high end. But I will say it's we're at about the 40-minute mark, so I think we're good anyway. It's kind of a sign. Jim Brown didn't want you talking shit about him. But what I did want to say is I remember on Beale Street, There were some times where I would see you in the corner of set. I'm like, what you doing here? We're not working on her coverage right now. We're not working on your scene right now. And after about halfway through, I was like, oh, she's watching me. She's watching me. She's watching me. I think it's really lovely that somebody who understands so much about what it takes to do what y'all do in front of the camera is now behind the camera helping other folks. I think it's why it's no surprise so many of these actors in this film, it's their best work. It's their best work. So salute to you on that. And having read the play, but not read the screenplay, having read the play, I think that the space you give this, talking about, again, all these men being able to be vulnerable with one another, unpack one another, I think it's the perfect medium for it. I think you did just an absolutely amazing job. I know the play won some awards, hopefully this film will win some awards. But if it don't, man, it got inside a whole bunch of folks, myself included.
Well, thank you. And at the end of the day, that's really the goal. I wanted you to see yourself in this story. I wanted I love being Black. I love the Black men in my life. And I wanted them to see themselves the way I see them. And Kim created a wonderful piece to be able to do that.
Word. My name is Barry Jenkins. This is Regina King, and this has been DGA Presents One Night in Miami. I hope to see you again soon, my dear.
Real soon. And I hope when I do, I actually get to give you a hug.
All right, word. I'm going to be now. I guess that's it, man. Yeah, take care, boss lady.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this, Barry.
My pleasure.
Love you, man. Bye.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. If you'd like to hear more, the Director's Cut is available wherever you listen to podcasts. Stay tuned in the coming weeks as we bring you discussions of films from Aaron Sorkin, John Lee Hancock, and Fisher Stevens. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow film buffs find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.